Hello and welcome back to Behind the Scenes of Your Career. My name is Jessie Wilkie. I am the owner and founder of Your Careers, where we help to rebuild your confidence as a professional through landing better jobs and better salaries. Today we have live on our show Lindsay Tobias. She is a holistic health coach and also my holistic health coach. And today we will be discussing how health impacts your confidence and performance in the workplace. So without further ado, Lindsay, thank you so much for being here. And if you could take some time to really just introduce yourself, that would be fantastic.
Oh, Jessie, thank you so much for having me. I'm actually so excited to be able to talk about this. I'm stupid passionate about this. So I'm a holistic health coach, like you said. I am the owner and founder of Keep Your Plants On, which is a business where I've coached over 300 men and women to stop dieting and start nourishing their body sustainably. So I am kind of a merge of that behavior science and holistic nutrition, because it's more than the food and we have to understand why we do what we do. And that deeper story is kind of what makes up our own health, because Jessie, you're multifaceted. I'm multifaceted, so when we only fixate on one component of our health, we don't create optimal health.
And everything that you say, I know firsthand, is absolutely what she's stupid passionate about because of the fact that she's worked with myself in helping me just shift my mindset and really seeing why I put food into my body and how it affects me not only as a human being, but also as a professional, which is why I felt stupid passionate about bringing you on to our show and having you really just talk a little bit more about how people can tangibly start making this mindset shift in an effort to make themselves more confident and really just more optimal in the workplace. And so if we could dive right into the conversation, I would love to do so. Are you ready?
Yes. My dog is chewing a remote at the moment, so that's why I keep looking over. I'm okay. He'll be fine.
For our first question for today, I wanted to ask you how you feel health impacts our work performance while we're in the workplace.
I love this question. Because I think we separate church and state so well in our minds. Like, this is me when I'm focusing on my health, and this is me when I'm focusing on my job. And something that I really wish people understood more is that nothing in your life exists in isolation. Nothing in your health exists in isolation. So when you say how your health responds in the workplace, it's really how your health responds in you, and then how you respond to your workplace. So what I mean by that is, think about your energy throughout the day. That doesn't directly affect your work environment, that affects you. And it affects the way you step into that work environment. So something I focus a lot with my clients is blood sugar regulation. So blood sugar means if you started your day with a bowl of Cheerios, your blood sugar would spike, and then in about 1 to 2 hours, it would crash. And so that initial spike is where you feel a lot of energy. Your insulin, which is your fat storage hormone, goes up. And then when it crashes, your body's going to signal for more food. You are going to feel really sluggish. This is why you hear that 3 p.m. slump, because 3 p.m. is 2 to 3 hours after lunch. That's when your blood sugar crashes. It's not in your head. It's literally a physiological function that's going on. So the issue here is when our blood sugar is spiking and crashing all day, we are creating a reliance on food. That means that we are going to be reaching for food, and especially people that are working from home right now are acknowledging this, that they're finding them reaching for a snack every 2 hours, or trying to reach for a snack for distraction. So that blood sugar balance is super important, and it allows us to actually keep sustained cognition throughout our day. That brings me to brain function. Food is information. It is medicine. Every single bite of food that we take broadcasts a set of instructions to our body. And those instructions, so for example, blueberries and walnuts, both of these foods have really crazy properties that will actually allow your brain to function more optimally. Food has function. One of the main things that'll steal from that cognitive function is food sensitivities. So if there's inflammation in your gut, it's going to result in something called brain fog. And brain fog means that we cannot function or be as cohesive as we want to be throughout the day. Because there's literally like a cloudiness, and food sensitivities and just inflammation in general will affect way more than that. It's going to affect your skin health, your gut health, your mental health, meaning 90% of your body's serotonin, which is your happy hormone, actually resides in your gut. So the foods that we are eating are absolutely affecting that anxiety, that mental health, that depression. There's even doctors in New York and more metropolitan areas treating patients with anxiety and depression only with an anti-inflammatory diet and probiotics.
Wow.
Which is insane. The third component I would say is, I touched on this a little bit, but your energy throughout the day. A lot of people think that it's very common to need coffee, very common to have something to kickstart them. But our body's actually created to have a rhythm. It's like we have something called our pineal gland. And our pineal gland is responsible for our sleep-wake cycle. And you've probably heard of your circadian rhythm. Your circadian rhythm is that rhythm of sleep and of energy that we go throughout the day and night, every single day. When we are functioning optimally, we have sustained energy through the day. And that sounds not as exciting. Like that sounds almost not that important. But think about what that really means. To have the energy when you get off of a long day of work to still be present for your family. To have the energy after 4 calls back to back to still show up for that 5th. That makes a world of a difference, and it changes the way that we show up because we know that we have a greater capacity to be there.
That's massive. I think there's a few things that you touched upon, but one of the things that stood out to me, right, is that, so you and I, we work from home, right? And so we have a little bit more flexibility, I think, in managing when we eat breakfast, when we eat lunch, when we eat dinner, if that is our cycle, right? And so basically honoring our hunger hormones and saying, okay, I'm hungry now, let me fix myself something to eat. However, what I would say is that a lot of times when you find yourself in a workplace where your schedule is determined by whoever put it together for you, and you're being told when to take your breaks, a lot of times we don't have that opportunity to say 2 hours from now, I'm in that 3 p.m. slump and I need something else to bring us back up, right? Mm-hmm. So being able to manage and understand the way that your food affects your energy in the workplace is major. From another standpoint, I love the fact that you brought up at the beginning of the answer of this question that we separate church and state very well. We separate work self and home self very well, or some people might see this as work Jessie and weekend Jessie, as I like to call it. And we separate it in the sense of, okay, this is who I am at work and this is who I am when I'm not at work. We can't separate that. And a lot of the way we feed ourselves and fuel ourselves to be able to perform optimally at work, that isn't a separation. You're bringing your entire self in regards to your entire energy level to work to be able to perform optimally, and how you fuel yourself to be able to execute is going to be massive in your ability to, like you said, by the time you either get to 3 p.m. or by the time you hit that 5th meeting, in the same way that we bring our full functioning self and our ability to function at our peak. How do you think health impacts your confidence level when showing up to work?
Yeah, And even about just touching on what you were just talking about, there's been a huge shift in a lot of the high performing business and entrepreneurs. I think before there was this, we almost glamorized running yourself into the ground. We glamorized, oh, they don't take care of their physical health. They don't sleep because all they do is work. And that was very glamorized. But now there's definitely a shift. These super high performing individuals are starting to be a lot more well-rounded because they're realizing that nothing exists in isolation. Like I said, like the way that you fuel yourself is the way you show up in your business. It is the way that you take care of your family. It is the way that you take care of your health in general. So I wanted to say that because I think that it's about time to stop glamorizing that. And when we stop glamorizing that, we can actually root for people, not just for businesses, because businesses are founded by people. And if that person cannot function and that business can't function without them, guess what happens to that business? So that kind of leading into your actual question, confidence is actually internal. Especially someone that struggled with dieting might relate to this, but if your confidence is based only on how you look, you will probably never get to a point where you are truly confident. And you can probably look back to a time that you were 10 pounds lighter and you weren't confident then. And we think that, oh, if I just got to this point, I wouldn't be. But when the issue is that we have this mindset that we need to fix ourselves. We need to fix ourselves. And this idea of fixing ourselves reiterates this idea that we are constantly broken, that we constantly need to fix, to change, to detox, to cleanse, all the things that are being shoved down our throat by diet culture. But in reality, we need to build. And this is something that you and I have worked on, Jesse, but like building gives the connotation that there is a firm foundation there and we're going to build upon that foundation. We're not going to have to constantly fix you. And I think that the way that we can show up in the workplace with confidence, health builds into that because health creates momentum. So I want you to imagine your day if you were waking up and you woke up too late, weren't even able to wash your face, you ran out the door, skipped breakfast. By the time you got to lunch, you're showing up to work as a stressed person. Your internal environment is completely unsettled. And that next decision is going to be fueled by all of those previous ones. That's where I'm saying this idea of momentum. Every decision that you make influences the next one. So if you wake up and your first decision is something that feeds your soul, that feeds your body in a nourishing way, that next decision becomes easier. When you just spent an hour working out, it is easier to make that next decision because you're like, shoot, I'm already doing it. So that momentum is very important because we create this cycle that gets pretty easy to stay on when it's something internal rather than something that someone constantly tells us we have to do. So how are we confident in the workplace? Think about every single thing that you are confident in. You have evidence, you have preparedness. I don't expect you to think that you are a runner if you've run one time. I expect you to think you are a runner if you have evidence that I run twice a week, I run 5 times a week. So building this evidence, and James Clear puts it this way, he says, every decision that you make casts a vote towards a certain behavior or a certain character trait or a certain identity. And in order to win an election, you don't need 100% of the votes, you need a majority. So if you want to think differently about yourself, you need to start casting votes towards that identity you want to be. You need to start showing up as that person, not 100% of the time. We don't need perfection. We need constant progress at varying speeds. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I love that you talk about how every decision we make is bred by the decisions that came before, because so much of what we talk about with our clients is preparedness, right? Which is basically what you're talking about. And I love this quote by you, and I don't know if it's by you, but you utilize it often, which is the most disciplined people are the people who create an environment for themselves where it's easy to be disciplined, right? Or where there's less temptation. And the reason I want to bring that up is because we talk a lot about, stress management, which I think also correlates very well with showing up with confidence in the workplace. And so being able to prepare your environment or prepare your mindset in a sense of, I'm showing up to work in a confident mindset. I'm showing up to work in a place where I've already done the prep work and made the decisions beforehand to allow me to show up to work confidently and to allow me to show up to work in a place where I can perform at my peak, because I've done either the inner work or I've had that good night's sleep before when I needed it. I don't need to shove 3 cups of coffee into my mouth to be able to perform optimally. We talk a lot about being able to manage that stress and manage our level of confidence in the workplace by first doing what we need to do within ourselves to believe in what we're bringing to the table. And then everything else that within our environment that counteracts that belief is going to be a lot easier to manage, because I'm not coming from a place of I suck or I don't have what it takes to perform optimally. I'm coming from a place in my mindset where I'm saying, I believe in what I bring to the table, so I can see and I can take and I can hear what you're saying to me in regards to your feedback, and be able to make shifts in my behavior that align with myself in order to continue that journey of confidence within the workplace. Yeah. And I think there's a beauty in what you said about if your confidence is only derived by the way you look, if the best thing someone can say about you is that you're skinny or you look great today, what actually are you bringing to the table? And I think that's so much of what you preach and what you say and everything that you coach. And I wanted to bring you on here to talk about that because of the fact that if the best thing people can say about you when you show up to work is that you have a nice smile, or you look great today, or I love your outfit, and it's not about the impact you're making on the company, what is really your role in that workplace, right?
Yeah. And what are you physically portraying? So like, what is it that you find most valuable about yourself? Because that's going to be heavily influenced by the way people have validated you. So if I only ever told you that you had the best hair in the world, it's going to be very important for you to keep that hair going strong. So that's why our words are so incredibly important, because if I started validating, hey, you show up for your clients like no one I've ever known, what are you going to start to value about yourself? The way you show up for your clients. And I say this to my clients, but your body, I always encourage my clients, like, it is not wrong to want to change or optimize your health or your body by any means. But at the end of the day, your body should be the least interesting thing about you. And that's something that in our culture is very backwards. For men, it's more of this focus of, hey, what can you be? What can you do? And for women, if you look at marketing and how we communicate with each other, it's, hey, what can you look like? And there's a shift.
There's a massive shift. And I think, it goes back to exactly what you said, which is, what do people say about you and what feedback do they give you? And if the only feedback they can give you is based on the way you look, you're going to start validating that as the most important part about yourself. And so not only saying, what do others say about you, but also thinking in the workplace, when we're creating these environments where we're fostering teamwork, what do you say about the people around you, right? What do you compliment them on? What do you validate them on? And what type of environment are you creating? Are you creating an environment where we're focusing on who has the best outfit in the office, or are we focusing our environment on who's getting us closer to our goal today, and how is that happening?
Yeah.
And so we talked a lot, right, about what people say about us and what is validated about ourselves in the workplace. And so I wanted to kind of shift that conversation into, there's a big conversation of body shaming, right, which is a little bit of what we just talked about, right? If your body is the most important thing people can compliment you on, what are you bringing to the table? But I wanted to shift that focus into, what are your thoughts on diet shaming? Is it real? Does it happen?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. There's a stereotypical, oh, Karen is doing keto again, and all these things, and feeling pressure to do different diets. And we all know those people that are on a new diet every single week. However, I think there's a lot of, especially from those people that are constantly doing these next diets, a lot of those people will find it very important on their behalf to inform the people around them that they too should be doing the same thing. Or, and it actually, there's two extremes. One extreme would be those people saying, hey, you shouldn't be eating carbs. Do you know what that's doing to you? Or I can't believe you're eating that right now. Or there's the other side that will feel insecure by you trying to make some healthier changes to your diet and say, are you really eating a salad? Are you really eating something so colorful? Like, that's so weird. What you're doing is so weird. Why don't you just get a milkshake with us? Or why don't you just do this? Both ends of the spectrum, honestly, are very unsolicited advice. Like, it's very not welcome. And I do encourage people, like, don't comment on people's food. That makes it so uncomfortable. But there's two groups of people. There are people that are very close to you in your inner circle that love you. And for those people, there's a different answer that I will give than just your work employees. So for the people that are very close to us, we almost sometimes don't give them a chance to accept us. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've been on the receiving end with a client hearing, my friends would never accept me if I actually told them that I want to make some healthier changes, or I want to do this. And it was funny because there was at one point where I had two clients, and they didn't know this, but I had two clients that were in the same friend group.
Oh
and
my word.
talking about this, and I was like, I can almost promise you your friends will accept you. But there's a poem that I really like.
Picked up the phone and had the same conversation.
Yeah. There's a poem that I really like that I think says this better than I could, but there's a whole world of green people. And in this world, there's two people that were born blue. And every single day they wake up and paint themselves green and go on their day looking for another blue person to make them feel normal. And one day they pass each other and they just keep walking because they're both painted green and they never knew. And that's really what we do. Like, we have these things inside of us that we want to be healthier. We want to start Zumba or CrossFit, or we want to start these things, but we think the people around us will isolate us. So we don't even give them a chance to accept us. And it's not fair, because the people around us most of the time want to love us well. And if they knew that that's what loving us well actually looked like, they might actually show up. And they might actually show us this love that only comes when we are actually fully ourselves and fully authentic. And we might stop resenting them for keeping us small. So that is one side of the spectrum.
Before you move on to the second side, only because I thought I don't want to lose that story of two blue people in a green world, because I think there is so much that resonates with the way we internalize feedback, and not just about our health, but also about the way we're performing in a workplace or the way we show up in a workplace. And because I'm extremely passionate about we use the verbiage of rebuilding your confidence as a professional in the workplace, because I really don't believe that you show up in this world lacking confidence. I think there are people and experiences that you run into, and this is in life, but specifically speaking on the workplace side of things, there are people and experiences that you encounter within the professional or corporate world that slowly chip away at what you originally thought was an asset in regards to what you were bringing to the table in the workplace. And I think there's something so beautiful about taking that story about two blue people in a green world who are just walking around looking for the other blue person to say, hey, everything about what you think about yourself or what other people are telling you are, and the negative feedback that you're receiving doesn't have to be true in this world, right? And so I think when we think about the negative feedback, and again, this does not mean we show up to work and we're 100% where we need to be. There is value in constructive criticism. There is value in negative feedback or constructive feedback, however your mind wants to internalize that. However, I think there is also a value in knowing exactly who you are, in knowing what values you align with when it comes to a company culture, in knowing what type of impact you want to make in a company, and believing in the assets that you bring to the table, so that when somebody gives you constructive feedback, you're able to internalize it in a way and being able to decipher, okay, is this valid and true? Or is this based on their own internal struggle? Is this based on their own internal insecurities? And how do I compartmentalize that to say, okay, I'm going to be able to adjust in a workplace in an effort to work better with my team, but in still knowing that I'm not losing myself in doing that. And I think I didn't want to miss the opportunity to bring that up, because that story, I want to copy paste it everywhere on my website, because I think it aligns so well with everything that we do, which is you don't have to be green if you're not green. You can show up blue, and so long as you're confident in your blueness, you can execute in a world of green people by bringing to light the value of being blue in a green world. Yeah. So, okay, now you can go on to your second half.
No, I love that. I'm glad that resonates with you, because I heard that poem probably 7 years ago, and it's just stuck with me so deeply. But the second half of the story is your coworkers, the people that they don't need to accept you in like this very personal, loving sense. You don't need their acceptance in order to feel loved and cherished and affirmed. I mean, it would be nice, yes, but like you have a core group of people around you outside of your workplace. But at the end of the day, what I want to encourage you with those people is, who is the one falling asleep in your bed, in your body, on your pillow? It's you, and it's you alone. And who is the one that these decisions actually affect? It's you, and it's you alone. And when we don't have these boundaries, we allow other people around us to make these decisions that they get to walk away from and we don't. And so when we're the one falling asleep in our skin, on our pillow, your habits are a direct mirror of your health. And if you want to be in a different spot, then you have to look at the perfect systems that were created to get you to exactly where you are now and say, hey, do I want to keep these? Not does Tommy want to keep these? Not does Karen want to keep these? And what I personally, like, I've definitely gotten my fair share of, what are you eating? Or, wow, so healthy. And it never has to be this hard conversation. For me, it's specifically like, oh, thanks. Or, yeah, this makes me feel really good. And when we see that we have these food pushers, pay attention to the way you are communicating about your food. Because if I'm sitting here, like you're sitting across from me, you're eating a cheeseburger, and I'm having a wrap with like a bunch of greens in it, I don't know. And I'm sitting there saying, oh, what I would give to have that cheeseburger. Okay, yeah, they're going to push that on me. They're going to say, oh my gosh, yeah, have this cheeseburger or take my shake, because they're trying to make you happy and you're communicating that you're not. But if you're communicating that you actually like what you're doing and you're not going to be on another diet with a completely different weird food protocol the next week, they might actually respect you, and you might actually get the chance to influence someone towards better health because they saw that it works for you, it's sustainable for you, and it's enjoyable for you. And who wouldn't want that?
You know, we can sit here and say, I shouldn't care what people think, and that looks really pretty on paper. And the reality of it is, when you're in a workplace where it's encouraged for you to get along with your coworkers and frowned upon if you don't,
Yeah.
And it's encouraged to align with the people around you and to make peace. I think we get so caught up in this level of compromise to the point where we forget who we were in the first place. And so that's why I think there's so much importance on the fact that you should be confident first in the decisions that you're making for yourself, that they should align with you. Because I think the only way that we feel the need to explain ourselves to somebody else is when we're trying to talk ourselves into that same decision as to why we're choosing that wrap over that cheeseburger. And so when I was at work, I started this movement called Bring Your Own Lunchbox. And where I worked, there was a cafeteria. You were able to eat for free if you wanted to. And everyone knows, eat for free or bring your own lunchbox, you're obviously going to be spending more money and bringing your own lunchbox, right?
Yeah.
But if your entire goal or your focus is to feel optimal at work, to perform at your peak, to make sure that you are confident in your choices at lunch and beyond, taking the first step in bringing your own lunchbox to work is going to be able to shape an environment where you can say, not only visually, hey, I'm confident in the choices I'm making.
Yeah.
You're also offering support in the same way that you said, where you could potentially have an influence on somebody else in being able to make healthy choices for themselves. And you know what? If that is not them and it doesn't align with them, that's fine. But you have to be more focused on the fact of what aligns with you and stay true to that. And I think, you know, coming from someone who struggles with their own indigestion and heartburn, and if I eat that cheeseburger at lunch, I don't even talk to me about the 3 p.m. slump. It's the hour after of me saying, I just want to go home because I'm so much more focused on the way I'm feeling in regards to that cheeseburger rather than everything else I have to accomplish.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not aligned with me and my soul and the decisions that I'm trying to make to be able to perform optimally, as well as being confident in what I'm bringing to the table in the workplace, to eat that cheeseburger rather than that wrap.
Yeah.
So creating that environment where you're confident in the choices that you're making for yourself enough to be able to support those choices when someone questions those. I think it's a phenomenal piece of advice and something that can translate well into the workplace, in the sense of when you're first confident in what you're bringing to the table and someone questions what you're bringing to the table, you're going to have an answer that validates why you make certain decisions and why you believe in the decisions that you're executing at the moment for the betterment of the company and the goals that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I love this conversation. What I wanted to ask you is, before we kind of send you off on your lovely, healthy way, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience that would either give them some encouragement to make a shift if they wanted to make a shift, or give some encouragement as to how to show up more optimally and more confidently in the workplace?
Yeah. If I could give one piece of advice, it's not going to be the 3 foods that you have to avoid, or what exactly to eat in a day to feel optimally. There's obviously space for that, and there's room for that to change. However, it starts internally. So I would honestly, especially with COVID right now, we've been given a lot more space, especially at that first outbreak. A lot of people had a lot more time on their hands. And what we thought would happen with more time, because we always ask for more time, what we thought would happen would be that we'd be more productive. And for some people, they have. But I want you to create space right now to think about your life. And something that I do with my clients every single week is I create space with them. Because what we're really good at as humans is filling space. It takes the average American 7 seconds to reach for their phone when left alone at a table. We have space, but we have space filled always. And even the mindless time is incredibly mindfully distracted. And so when we're always distracted, we can't be aware of our life. We can't be aware of what is working and what isn't. So I would honestly encourage you to take some time and create space to build some small amounts of awareness. If your health is a direct mirror of your habits, check these habits. Are you happy with where you are with those habits? Are you happy with the 30 minutes in the morning spent scrolling on your phone? Are you happy with your food habits, your exercise? Are you happy with the internal dialogue going on all day telling you who you are and who you aren't? And if you're not happy with those things, I would encourage you to, in that space, start to think, where can I stretch a little bit? Not where can I contort into this perfect lifestyle? You're still in your shoes, you're still in your mind, you're still in your body. Where can you start being a little bit better? What is something you can add in? I think when we think about health, we always think about, what do I have to cut out in order to be healthy? That's not the case. What can you add in to make your life a little bit more optimal? Because when you make these small changes, you can sustain. The larger changes that we make, we have a lot of pendulum swinging in order, like everything in our life has to shift a lot in order for us to sustain it. So if we can make these sustainable changes that align with our core values, we can keep them. So I would encourage you to create space unfilled. And if you find that I have no idea where to start when it comes to those things, every single huge leap that has happened in my life has happened because of a coach or someone that I brought alongside me. My business, I have a business coach. My health, I've had a health coach before. Even to get me to where I am now, I spent the money to go back to school. These things were important to me, so I invested and was invested in. And I think we're so fearful of not being the complete expert, especially these high-performing entrepreneurs. We have Google, we have everything we need. But you are not called to be the expert in every single field of your life. And it's okay if you aren't. Take someone alongside you, whether that be a friend for accountability, whether that be a coach, whether that be whatever that looks like. Don't insist on doing everything on your own if you can do it better with someone alongside you. That would be my 2 cents.
I don't think I can close that any better than the way you just did. I think, I talked about this with somebody else, and reality is a lot of us have a very difficult time in saying, hey, I need help, or hey, I need support. And like I said earlier in this conversation, people don't show up to help us because we don't allow them to show up to help us. And you're never alone in anything that you're going through. I think we feel alone because we don't take the time to articulate that we need support, right? Yeah. And so in my own journey, as Lindsay speaks, she is my health coach, which is why I brought her on here, because she has done wonders in shifting my mindset in that area of my life where I am extremely confident as a professional. And again, that has come from my own work in getting to where I am. I'm confident as an entrepreneur. And again, that's been in my own work in getting to where I am, whether that's reaching out to other entrepreneurs or other professionals and saying, how did you handle this when you got to this place, whether it's finding a podcast or a YouTube channel that feeds your soul in the areas where you're lacking, right? And fills the gap. And so I think that there's so much validity in saying you don't have to do this alone. If you're not where you want to be in regards to your health or your profession, you have two lovely people here where you can reach out to and say, hey, I need help. This is where I want to get to. And how can we work together to be able to get me there? Because the reality of a coach, right, is not telling you what to do. It's advising you what to do and saying, okay, let me look at your life and how can we shift it and make these small shifts to get you to the bigger picture and the bigger goal. And as Lindsay likes to say, you're super Jesse or you're super Lindsay. What small shifts are you going to be able to make in your own life? And how can we coach you to start making those small shifts? And so I wanted to thank you so much for coming on here today. It's been phenomenal to have this conversation. And if people do in fact want to work with you, where can they find you?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, this has been fun. You can find me on Instagram at Keep Your Plants On, my website, and I share a lot of resources on there, but my website is howtokeepyourplantson.com. And then I also,
I said best name ever.
Thank you. And then I also have a podcast of the Keep Your Plants On podcast. As you can tell, I've just kept it very streamlined. So just type in Keep Your Plants On and you'll find me somewhere, somehow.
Awesome. So if anyone wants to work with Lindsay, you have her there. I'll go ahead and link all of her information in the show notes, as well as put it here as well. If you choose you want to work with myself in regards to taking your career to the next level, or simply just rebuilding your confidence as a professional, you can find me at Your Careers on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. That's YOR, careers with an S. And our website is yourcareers.com. Again, very streamlined. So thank you so much for joining us today. And remember, this is your career. Thank you.